The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Brianna. I'm the creative strategist here at One Step Services. We are going to get started in just a minute. We're going to wait for a few more people to trickle in, so just give us about 2 minutes and we will get started.
Amy's got the wrong link. She's got an old one.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to go ahead and get started. As I said before, my name is Brianna. I'm the marketing strategist here at One Step Services. And today we are doing a live Q&A with our president and founder, Sandy Barragan. So we would love for you guys to submit questions, and we do have some that we took during registration. Some of you submitted questions at that time, so we will be addressing those. But we would also love for you to submit questions in real time here on the webinar, and we can go ahead and answer as many of those as possible. If you look on your webinar toolbar, you're going to notice that there's two sections, one titled questions and one titled chat. If you have a question specific to marketing or running a small business during this time that you would like us to address to everyone in the webinar, please go ahead and type that in the questions box. And then if you have a question that or a comment that's just for us, maybe a technical issue, or maybe you want to know the pricing of something, or you want to set up an appointment, a question that's really just for us to answer at One Step that isn't for the whole group, you can go ahead and put that in the chat box. So just as a practice, if everybody could find your chat box and go ahead and type in it just something like, I'm here, I see the chat box. You can answer our warm-up question, which is, what's the first place that you're going to visit after quarantine is over? But if everyone can just put something in the chat box for us to see so that I know you know where that is, and then the question box is on top of that, that would be awesome. Thanks, Vanessa. So you put that in the questions box, which is awesome. And you guys can, so that's where your questions for the webinar can go. And then the chat box is a little bit below that. Awesome. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Sandy is the president and founder of One Step Services, which is a marketing agency for small businesses, real estate agents, and nonprofits. So we've been in business for a little over 25 years and been through, the crisis of 9/11 and the Great Recession in 2008 and 2009. And so she has quite a bit of experience marketing through crisis, knowing full well that this is an incredibly unique crisis that really none of us have gone through before. So with that in mind, she's going to tackle some of these questions for you guys, and I will be asking the questions on behalf of everyone. So like I said, if you have them, go ahead and type them in that questions box. You can type them at any time during the webinar, and then we will have designated times that we're going to answer the live questions. Okay, so Sandy, how are you this morning?
Doing great. Thank you guys for joining us today. I know it's a little bit later than we normally start, so happy 11 a.m.
Awesome. Okay, our first question is from Vanessa de Santiago. She is submitted this question through registration, and she's online with us now. So hi, Vanessa. Thanks so much for joining us. And her question is something we get from a lot of clients. Our customer service agents are getting this question almost every day, and that is, how do I market my real estate business without sounding tone deaf and opportunistic?
Well, there's a couple things you can do to not sound too tone deaf in this market. I mean, obviously we need to acknowledge this moment. I mean, everyone in this crisis is sharing the same types of experiences. Funny story, I was actually talking to a few people I haven't spoken with in a while the other day, and everybody was telling me that their dinners are now after 9 o'clock at night. And I thought we were the only ones that were like regularly eating now at 9:30 and 10 p.m. I think it's kind of interesting to note that we're not alone in any of this, and everybody is really suffering through the same type of routine disruption and thirst for marketing and information as it comes out. So I think the best thing that you can do is acknowledge the moment and focus on being really informative and the stuff that you send out educational about what's going on. You have a personal struggle, you have things that are going on in your life, but more importantly, as a business professional and someone who is representing themselves as such in the industry, especially if we're talking about real estate or any kind of small business service that you're providing, you have a duty and a responsibility at this time to ask them how they're doing and ask what you can do to help. I think the biggest thing that you can do on a consistent basis is say, I'm here and what can I do? Make sure that they understand you're available, you're ready to help them, and that you're just standing by. You're kind of in the wings. You're kind of like a plane on the tarmac right now, waiting to go when they need you to take off. So acknowledge, though, that many people in this situation are just collecting information, and they've been bombarded with information, and maybe they've got a lot of personal struggles going on, and that many people right at this moment may not be going to use your services, whatever those are, or may not need you in this moment, but they may need you in a short time down the road. So just let them know you understand that, be available for them, and then tell them I'm here when you need me, and please feel free to reach out. So I think that that's a huge thing for any type of marketing and messaging that's going out right now. You don't sound opportunistic. You're not touting the greatest things that you have to to sell them at this point in time. You're just saying, look, this is my expertise, this is my service, and this is what I'm going to do. So I think that's probably one of the most prescient, pertinent things you can do at this time. Thank you for that question, Vanessa.
Sorry. Awesome, Sandy. Thank you so much for that. I would also add to that, if you have something specific not in real estate that you can offer help in, that would be something to share with at this time. We had a client that he put on one of his recent marketing pieces that if his clients were concerned about seniors and their family, that he has helpful resources specifically for seniors in the community. So maybe if you know where food banks are, or just any sort of very specific resources that you have that you can offer to help in a way that's not real estate related, or in a way that's not specific to the business that you're marketing, now is also the time to share that help with anybody and everybody. Okay, our next question was given to us by several registrants, and again, it's one we get a lot here as we're talking with customer service, but how do I run a successful marketing campaign with limited or no funds?
Probably one of my favorite questions to ask, because you can do a lot with small budgets, especially when you're targeting a specific audience to do that in. right now, creating content and information with giving articles or videos or blogging something about, what you're up to or what's going on in your world with your service or your real estate business, and putting up photos of things is probably one of the easiest things you can do. That doesn't take money to do, that just takes time and effort. And everybody right now, unfortunately, has the time. So I'm not really sure what you're doing around the house these days, but if you can sit down and maybe source out some things that have informative information about the marketplace, or just something you'd like to share with your audience, that makes a great piece of content. Distributing that content in the ways that are within your budget, I think, are primarily the reason people ask this question. Emails and posting on social media are obviously one of the most direct and specific ways to get to somebody without very much money being spent to do so. Everybody seems to have Facebook and Instagram accounts. I would highly recommend that you just keep engaged with the people that are on there. If you haven't called a bunch of people on your list in a while, let's say people you've sold things to in the past or have met here and there along the way, if you're members of a group or members of a social club, give them a call, ask them how they're doing. Or if you don't like the call me approach, send them a text, say, hey, just thinking about you, let me know what's up in your world, and is there anything I can do to assist, or give me a call when you're free. Those types of connections don't take any money to do, and yet it builds relationships for you while we're sitting here waiting for the world to restart. Your website, if you haven't looked at your website and done updates to that in a while, might be time to go through that content and maybe decide how to best restructure a few things. You could do YouTube and Facebook live videos. You can engage people that way. There's no cost to those things to do them. I would suggest that be something that everybody do on a pretty consistent basis these days. Is at least you could go out and film the neighborhood that you market to, or you could film a home that you've listed or that's currently on the market, or you could just film yourself talking about what you can do to help and put it up on YouTube. Gets a big audience that way. Direct mail is obviously the other thing that is a big deal. It always is a big deal, especially in the real estate industry for marketing. You have a very captive audience at this moment in time. What you send out is really going to build your brand today for tomorrow. And that you need to include that in the budget and in the funds that you're using in order to make sure that at this point in time you're doing something directed for your business. Direct mail can have the appropriate tone, it can have the appropriate message, and you can reach everybody all at one time. And say, look, I'm here, I'm still in business. We are an essential business if you're in real estate, and even people that are working from home because the essential businesses have been closed. Hey, I'm here, give me a call or send me an email and let's chat. So direct mail can be a good way to invite that type of audience. Distributing all that content to the audience who will find it most relevant. If budget and funds are a concern, you can always take direct mail and send it to the people who are most likely to refer you at this point. So the people most likely to refer you or most likely to pick up the phone and call you if they need help in this moment are probably a social list or a past client list or a referral list that you've created. So if funds are severely limited, at least marketing to that audience who will find it relevant and maybe very helpful at this time is something to consider. So that would be how I would answer that question for limited and no funds on successful marketing right now.
And also, we've talked about this in past webinars, but KCM, the Keeping Current Matters, if you're not sure what content to create and share on these different channels, KCM is a fantastic place to start. And they offer a lot of content for free. They do have paid content, but they also offer a lot of it for free. And so you can start there and distribute their information through various channels. And I know for us here at One Step, I do a lot of One Step's internal marketing, and we've been focusing on two main things. One is a channel that we're doing consistently, and that's email. And we've ramped up the email marketing game a lot because that's somewhere where we're comfortable, and that's somewhere where we know we have our clients' attention. So we've increased the amount of emails that we're sending. And then we've done something new, which is actually these webinars. I've been trying to get Sandy to do webinars for a long time, and didn't know it was going to take a global pandemic, but I'll take whatever I can get at this point.
Sometimes we need to pick our heads up. Like I said, we all find we're in the same thing together. So I've been finding myself on a lot of Zoom meetings and a lot of Google Hangouts in the last couple of weeks. And one of the things I've enjoyed the most, which I will share with you, is probably getting to connect directly with our clients again after a long time. Sometimes when we get so busy, we forget to actually pick up our heads and actually take a minute and just chit chat with, a client or somebody that we've done business with in the past, or a vendor. And I've had a lot of opportunity in the last couple of weeks to actually do that via Zoom, as it were. But it is something that I would highly encourage you all to do, is to get back in the game of relationships. This global pandemic is going to teach us a lot. And I have a feeling Brianna's going to have me doing a lot more webinars and video chats when this is all said and done, because we're having just too much fun with all this and getting good
yes.
attendance at all of them. So
Yes, absolutely. And I will tell you, the webinars are, I mean, anything you do, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, anything with video, that it's not as scary as you think it is. It's almost usually free or incredibly cheap, and people are tuned in. People are interested. They want to know what you have to say about all of these things. So definitely, if you haven't started that, jump on it. I am going to ask. We have one more question that came in from registration, but I do want to encourage you guys, if you have not, to go ahead in the chat box, in the question box, submit a question that you have right now, whatever it is. Go ahead and submit it. We would love to be able to tackle those questions live on the webinar for you. So go ahead and submit them. And we have one more question that came in from registration. And it's actually, we have two questions. They're kind of two in one, from our clients, Chris Lynn and Jill Burnett. And their questions were, what is the most effective marketing for a real estate agent during this time? And what type of campaign do you suggest?
good questions. Effective marketing campaigns during this time and effective marketing are kind of one and the same. So you've got to be consistent in this time. We don't want people to see you blink and then you go away. So I think I need to be really clear on that. If you're going to pick an audience to market to, no matter which channel, no matter which avenue you use, make sure that you're still kind of out there. And I don't mean be obnoxious. Don't be there 28 times a day saying, good morning, good afternoon, happy snack, and, good evening for dinner. I just mean you need to be consistent with both the message and the presence. So make sure that whatever you're doing, you kind of do it more than once in a week. One that uses your platforms that your audiences use. If you're on some weird social media site that nobody's ever heard of, or you don't have anything on your Facebook that other than your friends and family, those are not the platforms of the audience you're trying to get to tell them you're here for them with your business services. So make sure that you're using a platform that people looking at you use and people looking at you are going to be on. An accurate database is another thing. The most effective marketing that you can do during, well, at any time, but especially now, is make sure that the database you're sending to is correct. Make sure you've got everybody on it and it should be updated, and you should have correct addresses, and people you've met here and people you've met there are still, there, and where you're supposed to be either emailing them or mailing them or posting to them. Make sure we've got the right folks on there. The other type of question involved in this is what type of campaign. I said this earlier in the webinar: informative and topical. Right now, we cannot be talking about the awards that you just won last year for being the most wonderful, fabulous real estate sales agent that's ever lived. That's just not an informative and topical message right now. What is informative topical is things that will help them understand their situation, what's going on in the housing market, how this may be affecting housing, what it's doing now, what it's historically done, what we can probably assume and make some good expertise assumptions on based on the 2008-2009 rebound of the housing market, how this differs from that, what the interest rates still look like, all the rescue attempts that the feds have made in order to help businesses come back quicker. If anybody's been paying attention to the news, they use an awful lot of verbiage these days about a V curve and a U curve rebound for the economy. What does that mean in terms of the housing market specifically? What does that mean in terms of service businesses specifically? Are we going to see a V rebound? Is it going to be plummeting down for the next month and then all of a sudden just go all the way back to the skyrocket top, or are we on more of a gradual curve? Those topical and informative pieces that you interpret and you decide to disseminate are things that you should be using in these campaigns. But most important, the number one thing, the most effective marketing strategy for a real estate agent during a crisis, this one, anyone before or anyone yet to come, God help us that that doesn't happen again, is consistency. You've got to be there. So those are the two questions wrapped together. Thank you, Chris and Jill, for those.
Awesome. I wanted to add also a couple of very specific things that I have seen our clients do and that have come across the desk as far as what specific types of campaigns in this crisis. So a lot of, especially real estate agents, are still sharing their just listed and their just sold and their market updates, but they're combining it with some messaging about the crisis. And like we talked about earlier, ways that they can help, things like this. This one piece I thought was really unique. It was a just listed, sorry, it was a just sold piece, but instead of having the house and all the specs about the house, this agent actually put a picture of the family that moved in. And she says, please join me in welcoming our new neighbors. And she puts their names and the address. And I just thought that was really unique and interesting. It made it very personal. And so it was showing the work that she's doing during this time, but in a very personal and creative way. So it didn't feel like this agent just, blasting me, look what I've done. She really made it about the family. And so that was a piece that caught my attention this week. And then doing something as simple on your pieces, like Sandy talked about, making everything really, really personable and sharing your personal take on things. An agent did something, he wrote a letter and he had his handwritten signature on the piece. And that seems so simple, but that was really powerful visually to see that sense of like just personal connection in that piece. So during this time, Sandy also talked about like proper platform, and I kind of just wanted to share with you a little bit about here at One Step that in me trying to find a platform that connected with our clients, it was a lot of trial and error. And for social media, specifically in digital, we found that Facebook and Instagram and email, that's where our audience is. And they're not really so much on Twitter. So that actually ended up being a platform that we dropped. So during this time in crisis, it's kind of like a twofold. You definitely want to stick with the channels that you know are successful and that you know where your audience is. And if you want to try new channels, I think that's awesome, especially now that you have the time to do it and to learn about it. And if you have the budget for it, then you should definitely try new channels, but always be experimenting and making sure that those channels, that's where your audience is. And if your audience isn't there, then just go ahead and drop the channel. I dropped Twitter like a few years ago, and it was really, really beneficial in many ways because I feel like Twitter just sucks our souls anyways. So it was very life affirming to drop that channel. Okay, we have not gotten any questions yet. If it's still open, if you guys want to put those questions up in the chat box or in the question box. But we are going to move on and tackle a couple of small business questions. So specifically related to running a small business at this time. One Step is a small business, and so Sandy has had a lot of practice over the past couple weeks figuring things out as far as unemployment and small business loans and everything. There are a lot of things that we can't answer just for legal reasons, but also there's a lot of just confusion still on how all of this is going to shake out. But we have found some really helpful resources that we wanted to share with you. So that's what this next part of the presentation is going to be, is some helpful resources for real estate agents and then just for small business owners in general. And again, at any time, if you want to put some of those questions in the chat box, we'll go ahead and tackle them after we do the registration questions. So number one is, are real estate agents, contractors, and self-employed workers eligible for unemployment benefits?
Yeah, and I do want to touch on this really really quickly, this will be a recorded session, so you can have these links and the slide presentation when we're done. Brianna will send that out, so you don't have to worry about writing this down. You'll be able to reference this. I have done a lot of research in the last 3 or 4 weeks, obviously, as I'm sure most people have, related to resources getting through this crisis. Specifically for real estate agents, there's some CAR COVID updates that always get updated from day to day. You can find that on the CAR website. There's an awful lot of stuff directly specifically for real estate agents. The answer, though, about whether real estate agents, contractors, and self-employed workers are eligible for unemployment benefits, yes, they are. Currently, there's a pandemic assistance program in place that offers previous people who cannot qualify for state unemployment benefits at the federal level under the pandemic disaster plan. So there's information from the California EDD published about that on coronavirus. They do not have that program up and running as of this morning yet on the EDD website itself. But there is a link here in our slides that we'll send out that will tell you who's eligible and how you qualify for that. The federal government is the one backing it, but the states are the ones administering it. So you have to supply certain paperwork. You have to prove up eligibility. For most small business owners who don't have payroll, so I'm talking about real estate agents and mostly independent contractors, there's other requirements beyond what a small business has to qualify for. They don't seem very difficult on first blush at that, so I would encourage all of you to read these articles and certainly apply for whatever aid is available. At this time, it's out there for you to use, so please make sure you use it. The next set of questions that we got on this were the SBA economic injury and disaster loans. So not sure how much everybody's been paying attention to this, but there are now currently 4 programs in place, from the SBA being backed by the federal government through the CARES program and a couple of other small acts that have passed along the way here. There's 4 programs. The link at the top of this slide actually details and gives links out to all 4 of them and further information about them. But basically, there are $10,000 pandemic grants, which are one-time single dollar grants available for a lot of independent contractors and small business owners, to just hoping to get them over the hurdle. And in this time, where they don't have payroll and things of that nature, and it's just themselves. That's one of the big loans, and it was one of the first ones that came out, actually, from the SBA. There's other loan programs. The PPP is the one that's been all over the news. It's the Paycheck Protection Plan program. It's up to $10 million. It's basically a forgivable, 100% forgivable loan that's 2.5 times your average payroll for the previous 18 months. So you take 18 months, they average the payroll, and whatever 2.5 times that is what you qualify for in the loan. There's a lot involved in that, but the terms of it are basically the same as anything else. Use it to keep your business afloat, use it to keep your people employed, and if you do that, we're going to give you some, if not all, forgiveness on the amount that you're able to borrow. Some loans have specific requirements to them as to what they can be used for. The one I just mentioned, the Payroll Protection Act, has a very specific percentage. It must be used for payroll versus rent, mortgages, and other business expenses. So there's some really, really good information in summary and in detail on the link on this slide that we'll provide you. I encourage every business person, real estate agent, small business owner, independent contractor, to look through this and know what you qualify for at this time. It can really help out in a time of need.
Awesome. Okay. And like Sandy said, we will definitely be sending these things out so that you can have these links to look at. And our last question is kind of a more lighthearted one, but Sandy, as you are running this company with you and Dan, our operations manager, what are some things that you guys are doing to keep the employees encouraged and engaged during this time? Just so the audience knows, One Step is working almost entirely remote at this time. So everybody is at their own homes, working kind of alone. And so what are some things that you and Dan have done that have kept the team, cohesive and working together during this really weird time?
Yeah, that's probably one of the hardest things that most businesses have had to adjust to is a little bit of the, work on your own independent type thing. And we've got a lot of employees over here, both at One Step and our printing company. For those of you that don't know this, we've published it out on our websites and on our e-blast, but we are considered an essential business in the state of California because we do direct mail shipping and we actually support several clients in the healthcare industry with our transportation and fulfillment services. So our larger printing company, which has over 200 employees in it, is open for business, and of course practicing all those wonderful little social distancing requirements. So even when they're working together in the same place, it's a little bit different than what it is here at One Step, because we handle most of the custom design and handle mostly a lot of small business operations for real estate. And other small businesses that are certainly considered essential at this time. We've got all of our designers working remote. So that's kind of what Brianna's asking. How do you keep people on your team? How do you keep people that you work with engaged and kind of with you at this whole thing? For us, it's been a little bit of here and there. Brianna sent out a question this morning over email or over chat to all of our group about what have you been binge watching at night during all of this, and if there's anything interesting we want to hear about it, just so everybody gets to share in your daily lives here at One Step. So the answers we've gotten back have been interesting. One of my employees responded that he's actually learning the ukulele at night and taking time to do that, which I thought was pretty funny. We're also trying to have regular video meetings and make sure that everybody still feels connected. That's an important thing. Our next webinar here from One Step for our clients is going to be a web-based video meeting as opposed to just webinar audio. I think it's important to say hello in person as much as we can these days. I do a lot of checking in on individual employees. I give them a call in the middle of the day. I send over emails, I send texts and ask how things are going, if they need anything, if there's anything I can do to help them, if everything's running smoothly on our remote systems, or if there's anything that needs to be adjusted there to make their day go better. I share resources with all my people. I think it's really important. If I'm spending the time researching all of these loans and grants and unemployment things and what we can expect coming up in the future for how business can turn around, I think it's important to be telling everybody what you think, as well as maybe what the news is saying. So I do a lot of that as well. I send out a lot of info kind of on a consistent basis to my people and say, look what I found today. I read this, and here's maybe what we have to look forward to. I also try to work with everybody to create as much of the work and home balance as possible in this time. It's a little challenging. A lot of my people have kids who now are not in school. And so there's, little ones running around while they're trying to do their job. And, they're doing really, really well, making sure that both work gets attended to on a timely basis and their kids. So I just make sure we encourage and keep all that top of mind at this time. So I would say to anybody who's running a team or who has employees or is running any kind of vendor relationship business that they're, whether that be escrow officers or title reps, make sure that you reach out to them. Make sure you find out, what's going on in their world, and make sure you just invite them to a Zoom. There's a great app on the phone I want to tell you guys about. It's called Hangouts. I'm sorry, not Hangouts. It's called House Party. Sorry. House Party is kind of like Zoom, but in a little miniature version. And you can go on House Party, download the app, and you can even play games with somebody that you can see while you're doing it. It's a little bit more of a fun way to have a video chat. It engages people a little bit more, and I'd highly recommend, if you've got some team members or people you want to connect with, invite them to a house party and have them download the app. It's a great little thing to do.
Awesome. Okay. Well, that is all of our questions that we have today. So thank you everybody that submitted questions during registration, and thank you everybody for tuning in. As Sandy said, we will be doing another webinar in about 2 weeks. And at that time, we will be discussing some very specific marketing ideas. So kind of, we touched a little bit today on just some pieces that have come across the desks, and Sandy talked about messaging and stuff, but we're going to really drill down into some nitty gritty of very specific types of emails and social media posts and direct mail that you can be sending out during this time. If you haven't already connected with us, then there's definitely a couple ways to do so. If you'd like, if you're not currently a client or you don't have a campaign going with us, we'd love to connect with you. You can send an email directly to our our director of client relations, Melissa Busey. Her email is right there, melissa at onestepservices.com. If you just want to kind of get some more information with us, you can connect with us on Facebook and also on Instagram. On Instagram, we're onestep_OC, and on Facebook, we're One Step Fans, facebook.com/onestepfans. You can also get onto our email list, which I have most of your emails, so most of you are already on that. But on the email list, we send out different marketing postcards that we generate here at One Step that you can use. We just kind of put your information on it and send it out on your behalf. We also have some marketing messages specifically for email that you can just copy and paste directly into your email to send out to your clients. Links to different articles that you can share on social media and stuff. So if you are struggling a little bit with content, then definitely check the emails that we send out weekly with those different messages. If any questions about any specific product or pricing or anything like that, go ahead and just shoot us an email either to Melissa or to our general email, which is info@onestepservices.com. So thank you everybody so much for tuning in, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you guys in our next webinar in about 2 weeks. Talk to you soon.